Okay, so in this example, this is the food data once again. I want to focus on revenue and profit, and I want to focus on it as far as year over year. I want to focus on it as far as all of the other fields of information that we have. I want to just swap out different areas of fields, different groups of fields, and really kind of give you a look at our profit and revenue at a number of different angles. And I'm hoping by me showing you this, you'll get some ideas with the data that you have, and think of the multitude of maybe different fields that you might have to break down your data and to see it in different lights. So our first pivot table, I'm going to kind of focus on the product that we sell, and that's what you see over here. If we kind of go over a little bit here, you'll see the product name, and you'll also see maybe the category as well, but we're going to focus mainly on the product. So the first thing we'll do is we'll click on to anywhere in the data first of all, and then click on to insert, go to pivot table, and then hit OK. Alright, so we'll find our product field here, and what we'll do then is take that product name, drag it into the rows area. There we go. And then we'll find the revenue, which is going to be the total sale or T sale here. Drag that into the values. And then we want to bring in profit. Now we don't have profit as a field. We did, create that in the last video, but this is a whole new database here, so we're just going to have to do it again. And that's okay, because it'll be a good review for everybody. So profit is going to end up being a calculated field, and it's going to come from taking the total sale minus the total cost. So basically the revenue minus the cost of goods. So we'll go back up into the Analyze tab here. We'll go over to Fields and Items. Click on to Calculated Field. We'll call this one PR for profit. And the formula will be taking, again, the total sale, double click that, minus the total cost. And we'll double click that, hit OK, and there we go. Now we can go back in here real quick and change this to just maybe being called revenue. And over here we'll call this one, we'll just call it profit. Again, we can't use the same name as the field. That's why I just gave it a real short name for the actual name when we first created it, and then my intent was to use this for the name on the sheet. All right, there we go on that. Then I'll also format the revenue, so just do a double click on that. Go to number format, go to our number, go to our 1000 separator, no decimals, hit OK a few times, and there we go. And we can go in there, we can take that, go back into home and just center it if we'd like. Now we know when we look at these numbers, these are 4 or 5 years worth of numbers. It'd probably be good to maybe break that down by year, and that can be done very simply by going over to our order date, dragging that into the columns area, and we'll just kind of put it above columns here, let go, and we'll end up getting this. So we end up getting the year 2022, eventually 2023, a little bit further over and so forth. Now this is kind of broken down by many things. We've got not only the years, but we've got quarters and we've got months. That's a little too much. All we care about is just the years. So if we just click on any one of the labels that are date related, go back into Analyze, go back to Group Field, just click on to years and get rid of the other one, so we'll just get that selected there. See, so just get that selected, hit OK, and there we go. We can also very quickly just click onto it, go over to Analyze, go to Pivot Table, go to Options, and tell it to merge and center the labels and get this looking a little bit better. That way this is centered and this is centered, all of it's nicely centered in there. And then if you want to as well, go over to the design, go to our drop-down arrow, find a format, a style that you like to use. We'll maybe go with the blue. something like that. We'll start out, yeah, I don't like blue. We'll go green. I get really picky with this stuff, so we'll go, how about that? That looks a lot better. Okay, and maybe also do the banded rows to give it a little bit more definition. And even maybe go ahead with the banded columns as well. That way it'll make it a little bit easier to kind of separate that out. So what we're looking at so far are each of our products that we sell, and then the revenue that was generated for each of the years, as well as the profit that was generated. Now we can kind of change this up a little bit and have the categories that the products are under brought in as well, to kind of group it a little bit nicer. So we can actually go and find our category field here. There's category. Now if we drag it underneath product name, that doesn't do us much good. You have to understand that there's only one product, or only one category for each of the products, right? So you might do this and go, oh, I guess that's a bad, combination of fields, and it's really not a bad combination, it's just the wrong order. If we take the product name and drag it underneath the category, just like that, that totally changes things. And then we can go over to the design, click on to blank rows, insert blank line, and get that kind of broken down a little bit better. So that looks pretty good. So those are related fields that look good, breaking down and looking at the numbers. So we still have the original numbers here, in here, but we now have it with a heading of the category, so you can see that. Now another way of looking at this would be maybe looking at the zone or the territory and the country. So if we go ahead and pull off the category, pull the category off, product name off, and then we'll go ahead and find the zone, which is basically the territory. So take the zone, which that looks really good in itself, but then if you take the country and put underneath like that, now we have, the heading, Africa, America, Asia, and so forth, and then all the countries that we sell to within each of those zones. So that's kind of nice. And that's, again, all these different calculations that are done automatically for you. I mean, if you had to do this by hand, this would take you hours, if not days, to do accurately. We could also look at maybe zone and category. So we can actually take the country out here and go ahead and bring in country, or I'm sorry, category. So we'll go and find our category here. There's our category, put that underneath there. That looks pretty good. So now, before we had as product, now we can actually just see the bigger grouping of categories there. So that's kind of an interesting look. Now, if you were to switch those around, take maybe zone, put underneath category, like that, that gives you another look that you might like to see. So you might even do both. You might create one pivot table that has the one and then have one with the other, and have those as a comparison. Another one we could do is we could bring in, we'll get rid of category and zone here, and we can instead do maybe country. So bring in country again. Oh, going the wrong way there. Country, there we go. So there's country, all right, and then maybe even company. See, so do something like that. Now we can actually see each of our countries and then see that. Now we could go one step further. Hopefully we won't get it too, as I was saying maybe in previous videos, you do too much summarization, it gets to be too much information and you kind of over summarize, which defeats the whole purpose here. But I would say that if we were maybe to take the zone and put the zone above country, right? So now you've got your Africas and you've got your 3 countries, and then you've got your companies within that, and then same thing with all the other ones. So that looks pretty good too. All right, so that's another thought as well. Now another breakdown or another field that we have in our data is the type of company it is. If I go back to my data here and we look at the type, we've got like internet type company, a government related company, value added type company, and so forth. So I'd like to maybe break my data down like that. So I'm going to take my zone and my just all three of these fields out again. And this time we're going to bring in type. So there's the type. Pretty interesting, just the way it is right now. But then what we can do is we can bring in the company. So I can take the company, bring that in like that, and now we got a nice breakdown of the different companies. Not bad. We could also take the company out, and we're going to bring in country instead. So I'll find my country, bring it down like that. There we go. Same kind of breakdown, but different types of calculations in there. Not bad. So it's really, the more fields you have, the more different combinations of information you can come up with, for your pivot. And at one point, you're going to maybe put together 100 different combinations and figure out that maybe 5 of them are exactly what you need to do all the time for your data. But the only way that you're going to know which pivot design is for you, or what designs are for you, you have to first make them. And when you come across one after dragging this field here and that field over there, eventually you're going to come across different combinations that are really going to kind of bring to light your data. Okay, so we can even go as far as just taking the country out, drag it out like that, and put the zone in instead, and there we go. So now we've got our different types of companies, and then and the dollars that were generated and made, and then also broken down by the zone or territory. Now, one of the items that we added or had in our data had to do with the vendor, and the vendor in this case, what you see listed here in column T, is the company that supplied us with whatever the product was. And by including them in the data, I can actually create a pivot off of this information. So I can actually see, I guess, on maybe an indirect basis, how much revenue or how much profit did we generate from a particular vendor or series of vendors. Something that a lot of times we don't really think about, but it kind of gives us an idea of where our revenues and where our largest amount of revenues are coming from. What vendor, what are our most profitable vendors versus what are our least profitable vendors. And we get all that by simply having that vendor name in there. So let's start out, first of all, we'll just kind of flip the table here a little bit. So I'll take the type out, and I'll take the zone out. I'll find the vendor name. There it is. There's the vendor field. Drag that into the rows area, and there we go. So you can actually look at this and say, wow, okay, so we've got Alaskan Seafood. That's one of our vendors. The revenue and the profit generated in 2022 versus 2023 and so forth. Now what we could do is we could actually add the different categories that they sell to us of a product. So if we were to bring in the category and put that underneath the vendor, then we can actually see that. So each of our vendors, and these are the categories that they sell to us, and so the revenue and the profit we're making from those categories. Pretty cool. Now, if you flip that around and we took the vendor and put that underneath the category, then you've got that look. Another way of looking at the data. So now we can look at each of our different categories and look at the vendors that are responsible for those categories and what we're making from them. Now, if I flip that back around, so there we are on that one. Now, what I'm going to do next is bring in a third related field. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring in the product name right here, and we're going to put that right after the category. So I just put underneath the category there, let go, and look at that. Now that might get a little large. I mean, this will go on, and it might look a little sparse, might not look that great. That's up to you. You figure out if that was a good category to add or not, but or field to add. Now I'm going to pull this up a little bit so I can see these better. Now if I took the category and put it above vendor, then I've got something like that. If I took vendor and put underneath product name, I've got that. Is that doing me any good? I don't know. I don't think it is. So I think probably having the vendor as the original and then the category, a good thing. If you probably, what you probably want to do is have either a pivot that has category only or product name only along with the vendor. So if I were to take, let's say, the product name out this time, there I've got that one. If I were to bring the product name back in again and then take out the category, I've got that. Now what I can also do is stretch this just a little bit, take the product name out, keep vendor in there, and bring in the country field and look at it that way. So now I can actually see what countries are buying from this particular vendor. I mean, indirectly, because we're obviously selling it. So that's maybe a thought to look at there. The other way would be to take the vendor and put that underneath the country, right, and have it look like that. I don't know if that's going to give you much of a summary or not, but it's a good, it's just another way of looking at it. Again, you're experimenting, you're putting these things together and, going back and forth with this, and you find combinations that work perfect for what you're trying to convey to whoever your audience is. And the only way you can do that is just to experiment and do what we're doing here. If that might be a little too much with the country, because we've got so many different countries, maybe we can just take the country out and instead put the zone or territory in, kind of do it like that, and see for each of those vendors and look at the countries and look like that, or flip it around like that. That might get a little bit too big as far as groups go, but that's up to you how you might want to see that. But I think either way looks pretty good. Now another idea that we might have here is to have along the top here a monthly breakdown, like January, February, March, and so forth, and then have the years being your filter and kind of doing it that route. Now, what I'm going to do here, just to kind of keep it a little bit more simple looking so it's not too overwhelming, I'm going to take the vendor out now. I'm just going to take that out there and just leave us with just the zones here. Now, what I'm going to do is take the order date, and the order date field in this case is what's giving us the years. I'm going to take that and drag it over into the filter area here, just like that. Now, what I need to get are the months. Now, if I click on to, well, let me go back and put that back over here just for a minute here. So what I need to do is kind of break this up so where I have the years, but I also have months to work with here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on any one of the years up here, go back to my Analyze. This is probably the trickiest part about the program, is working with this breakdown of date or breakdown of dates. So the trick is that right now all I have to work with are just years, right? And that's because I had gotten rid of the other things via the group field. So what taketh also giveth. So if you go back onto one of the years, click on the group field, I'm going to click on the months. So I'm going to leave years in there, but click on the months now, hit OK, and now I've got years and I've got order date, and now the order date technically is is the months, I guess, right? So we can take years now, drag that over into the filters, and now I've got that, see? So now I've got my yearly or my monthly breakdown, and over here then, when it says all, then I mean it's probably not the best display right now, because in essence what you're looking at here is this number, this January revenue for Africa, is actually a total of all of the January numbers for Africa, okay? throughout the year. So it'd be like 2002, 2003, 2004, or whatever we got here for our years. But they're going to be in there, you know, by January. So by each of the months. Doesn't make much sense at this point. But what happens then is that you did it this way because you want to be able to go back up to where it says years, click onto here, choose 2022, hit OK. So now this is these numbers are for the year 2022. So we have January's revenue in Africa of 279,000. That's how much we did in Africa in revenue in the year 2022. So there it makes sense doing that. Now another thing we can do is we can click on one of these dates again, go back to the group field, get rid of the months, and click on the quarters, right? So now when we hit OK, then we get this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the years, because it flipped over, just take the years and put it back into the filters, and there we go. So now what are we looking at? We're looking at, basically, we're looking at the first quarter revenue for Africa for all 5 or 6 of those years. But the minute I go back up here into the filter and say, okay, give me 2022, hit OK, now that is Africa's revenue in the first quarter of 2022, the second quarter, the third quarter, the fourth quarter. So that's kind of an interesting, you know, breakdown. If we were to take then the order date over here, which is actually the quarters, right? Take that and drag it underneath years. Now we have a very simple little pivot here that is giving us, in essence, what we're looking at is looking at the year 2022 for all the territories. Now, if I click on the drop down here, I can specify the quarter. So what we're looking at here now is 2022's first quarter sales. And then, of course, if I want to spruce this up a little bit, maybe I could take the zone out, maybe bring in the product or the category first. So we'll take the category, and maybe underneath that put the product name, right? And look at that. So now we're looking at the different categories, the different products for 2022. If I want to see all of 2022, then I would go and clear the quarterly filter and just say all on that, hit OK, and there we are. Now we're back to seeing the full year. So just all kinds of ways that you can lay this stuff out. But overall, hopefully, you know, some of this will ring a bell with you all. You'll be able to take some of your data, experiment. But the big thing is just rearranging these fields, bringing in fields, pulling fields out, putting some as columns or rows or whatever, filtering, whatever you need to do. But you're going to come across, like I said before, combinations of fields that are really going to hit the mark, and you're going to go, okay, this is one of my top 10 pivot table designs that I always use when I'm giving my reports. So hopefully this all comes in handy for you. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Take care.